Hello, welcome to the video. Um, so I had made four-part video on Peter living in Jerusalem. So it all makes sense. Um, so Peter already knows that Jerusalem's going to be destroyed at some point. The prophecy given year 80-30 by Jesus. So here he is living in Jerusalem. He's going to have to go to a safe place, right? We already know in the Jewish mind, based on Matthew 2, Egypt is the safe place. So it all makes sense. So then his son, Mark, I believe his biological son, moved to Alexandria, Egypt, according to Eusebius. Again, he's not a reliable source, but we have to with any reading of history, we have to exercise a lot of discernment. But it all makes sense that he would have gone to Alexandria, Egypt. Okay, and then uh, 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 12, Sylvania, he was living in Babylon. So, and I believe he was the one that wrote First Peter for Peter. That would have written in Greek. He would have had it written in Greek for the five churches, because the five churches were these churches up here who would adopt the Greek culture. They would know the Greek language. Okay, Peter did not know Greek. He knew Aramaic. He just spoke Aramaic. Okay, where he was at, and Jerusalem. Okay, um, so it all makes sense. So by telling about Savannah, Mark is hinting to them where to go for their gathering. So, so Peter would have been in Jerusalem, identified the lost one, who was revealed on August 14th of the year 66. And immediately after that, he would have gone down to here to meet Savannah. Um, immediately. um, Lasavania was here already in Jerusalem, being able to write it down, but that's a possible scenario too. But anyway, he would have known it's going to be happening soon. Now, keep in mind that was after the sign of Son of Man occurred in the sky already. It was just a few months prior, on May 2nd of that year. So he knew he had to get the heck out of there. And so, yeah, and so whether or not, so he would have moved to Babylon, and his son Mark was here. They were preparing for the gathering. So when the five churches plus the seven churches in Asia that John wrote to, they would have um, communicated about Mark. They would have known that he was in Egypt, Alexandria, Egypt at the time, um, and they would have gone there and for the gathering, which I believe it ended up in Petra. So, um, yeah. So now, whether or not Peter kept going back and forth to feed them, I imagine so, because they're going through the famine. Um, he would have had to. And I'm talking about the stick of Judah, the Jews who were in Jerusalem. Um, so these 12 churches would have, the Jewish people, the stick of Joseph, would have met him there, and he would escort him to Petra, and then he would still been feeding them until he died at some point. He had been dead by Passover of year 70 for sure. Um, but if he died at some point, the people here would have been able to continue on. Why didn't they just try to get them out of there? Um, they had to endure the Daniel chapter 12, verse 12 prophecy of 1,335 days. That was from August 15th of year 66 all the way until April 10th of 70. That was God preparing them for the gathering. Okay. And also being a light onto the Jews who rejected Christ. It's all part of God giving the full 9 yards of repentance. It gave them everything, all the signs. Okay. Um, they were in such darkness, they just couldn't. It goes to show how darkness, when person becomes dark, they just can't see the light of day. Um, you know, Josephus made some comments, in his sixth chapter. Anyway, yeah. So it all makes sense. So it would have been the year 66 when Peter got out of there and moved over to here, safe place. Um, and it makes sense too because sign of Son of Man occurred. Remember, May 2nd, that would have been the mission was fulfilled, finish. You don't need to coordinate with the other apostles anymore. Matthew 10:23, that mission is done. Knowing that Jerusalem's going to get destroyed here soon, just makes sense they would have moved out of there. Um, yeah, it's so sad to me that people have been brainwashed into thinking that Babylon and First Peter chapter 5 verse 13 refer to Rome. That is a total, absolute 100% presupposition that blocks you from the biblical narrative. It just doesn't work. If you try to make it work, you understand the history, understand the prophecy being fulfilled, it does not work. And so when people believe it to be true, that Babylon referring to Rome, it blocks you from a whole tidal wave of reality, the biblical narrative. So anyway, all right. Well, thank you very much for watching. So yeah, it all makes sense. So all right, thank you.